Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the ice on ASTV. Brought to you by Pure Nata, Dokes Bulk Fuels, and Case Financial Group tonight. We're doing it live. We're trying this out again simply because my guest this evening has been running all over the place, well, still staying home during this wonderful pandemic we are facing, because he's now having to wear two different hats for a new different team that he's been hired for. Head coach GM of the Winnipeg Freeze, Coach Harry Mahesh, is going to join us on the ice. We're going to talk about his off-season that's upcoming, what he's been doing to keep busy, and the challenges that he's going to face or will be facing this off-season leading into a hopeful regular season in fall of 21. So without further time, let's welcome Harry Mahesh here, head coach GM of the Winnipeg Freeze.
Oh, shots. Everybody!
A little bit of new music there for you, Harry. How'd you like that? Feel like you're ready to get on the ice, or are you hoping that other establishments are opening up soon?
It kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't know if that was the right intro or not. But
it caught me by surprise as well the first time I heard it. Thanks very much for joining me, Harry. You're looking good. You're looking dapper, all cleaned up. I guess you had to do that with the new process of interviewing, a little bit different. We'll get to that in a second, but welcome to On the Ice. If you had to explain what it's like wearing two hats, have you done that before, or is this a new role for you, having both positions at once?
I mean, officially, this is the first time. I've been lucky enough to coach, obviously, being assistant coach. My time at the academy, you do put that GM hat on, during some recruitment. But officially, this is the first time with my title, and I mean, it feels good. I mean, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, so I'll take the position happily.
Happily, you will. Yes. Which color do you like better, orange or blue?
Blue. I look good in blue. So yeah.
You look good in blue. You look dapper. I was expecting the Winnipeg Jets undergarments were always that navy blue with the light blue color, and you knew how hard a player worked because it was full of sweat after 20 or 40.
The Stanfield's undershirts. Yeah, I got a couple of those, so I can finally wear them.
You can finally put them on and finally say, you know what, let's knock the dust out of the old wardrobe, if you will. So we got the news a little less than a month ago. Would excited be an understatement in this whole ordeal, and just saying, wow, I'm actually the new head coach and GM of a pretty new 5-game into a team for the Manitoba Junior Hockey League?
I mean, obviously excitement's an easy word, but I'll be honest, this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. I've been working towards it, and a lot of times, you have a goal and, you try to achieve it for a long time, and then you get it, you're kind of, you're excited, you're relieved, you're nervous, you doubt yourself, you're like everything. So just excited was one of the emotions, but no, I mean, this is something I've wanted to kind of achieve in the sport of hockey when I was done playing, even when I was done playing, and or before I was done playing. So yeah, I guess excited is a kind of a simple term, but I felt kind of a little bit of everything.
When you talk about doubt, that's the hardest thing, I think, for an athlete or a coach to kind of push to the side or deal with that adversity. I mean, your playing career, you've been all over North America. We talked about, shootouts before games. We've talked about the bus trips. We've talked about the small towns you've played in and whatnot in Canada, United States, overseas. How do you, tell a player to stop doubting yourself, or don't let that become part of the equation? Because you should have that trust in yourself and your opportunity of what you can handle.
For myself, it's funny, it's nobody wants to fail, but it's the biggest cliche. You learn the most from the downs. So having been through a lot myself in the hockey world, it's one of those things where, you can't really doubt yourself if you haven't really tried to bounce back, So sometimes, players get down on themselves, and a lot of it comes from, is a coach going to give me a second chance? And my philosophy is, you get a second chance, a third chance. So if I'm not going to doubt you, then, you shouldn't doubt yourself. It's the biggest worry we have is, disappointing the people around us, especially in a team game. But if you know that the coach has your back, then, you should feel good. And a lot of times, unfortunately, you don't get that trust from the coach, which is where it's a lot easier for players to doubt themselves. So I think it falls on the shoulders of the coach to kind of truly prove to the players, like you can do this.
Is it a coaching mentality or like a philosophy to have everyone, buy into a certain system or give it their all for the team, so they understand that by giving into this program and this philosophy, that you yourself as a person can then eventually grow and then get to that next level, which is, it's the mantra for what the MJHL is for. They want to see their players in this program, in this hockey league, but to excel, to get to a potential, college, university, even a position in life as an occupation. Is that still the way, coaches are working to strive to make players better each day?
Yeah, it's funny. It's really easy for a player to think that when a scout comes to a game, he's going to look at your points, and all the things that we think makes a good player. But at the end of the day, every scout they're trying to add players to help their team win. At the end of the day, if you put up a lot of points and your team's always losing, that check mark, that box that you're going to check to say, is this guy a winner, will always be, empty. So I think it's really important that these guys realize that, if you come together as a team and you show that you contribute to a team's success, that's going to take, everybody's attention first and foremost. The points and everything will come, but if you can develop in a system where what you bring to the team helps that team win, then you're going to be an asset to any team moving forward. So I think that's really important. And it's really tough for kids to see that, because the numbers, they don't lie. Points prove that you're better. We grow up with these things, but the people in the game, and you're not one of those people until you're one of them, will tell you that when you're out there watching, you're looking for players that are going to help your team win, whether it's with points or, hits or whatever. It's just, that's the name of the game at the highest level.
We talked a little bit about doubt and having the opportunity to pick yourselves off the mat or off the ice that one more time as you fall. How important is it for a player and a coach to also understand what it feels like to win? And, you see that as not maybe necessarily a check mark on a scouting's report, but when you see several players and you see a system and a group of individuals work together, that winning tradition is built, and then that becomes part of, something that a player gets to hang their hat on and then probably provide that next level.
When you look at the best players in any sport, and like the top, the elite, they've won at every level. So winning is something that's contagious, and it's a habit, and it's, you understand only one team can win every year, but you got to build a foundation of, the elements it takes to win. So, we work a lot on skills and systems, but I think a lot of teams or a lot of players and parents have this mindset is, well, if my kid goes to the worst team, he'll get to play a lot and the scouts will see him. But sometimes a lot of bad habits can go into playing for a team that struggles. You learn some tendencies that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get away with on a different team. So I think that approach kind of needs to go away. I think, you want to put your kid in a situation where you're surrounded by a culture that promotes, I don't want to say winning because it sounds, that's the priority, but something that, a foundation of building character and all these little things that essentially make a winner. We don't play sports solely to win or lose, at this level, but if your goal is to get to, the NHL, the NBA, unfortunately, the people paying your salaries are paying you to help them win. And I think the most competitive guys just naturally, understand that. But for kids at any level, it's important to know that you're building towards something, and winning is, you're allowed to say it.
The MJHL isn't, house league hockey. It's there to promote the next level. It's there to promote not only the teams that are involved, but also the players playing and the coaches. Having that said, doesn't it have to be one of those priorities to make, your best efforts on the ice show in the win-loss column?
Yeah, I'll be honest, like going into, this role with this new team, like, yeah, you kind of have to dress it in a way that, wins and losses ultimately, are a big important factor, especially at this level. But at times you're going to have to realize that it is a process, and these guys are going to have to develop those kind of habits, throughout their junior career. So for me, it's as much as I want to win, it's not something that comes overnight. So, some guys have that, some guys don't, but I think it's really important for a coach to step in and be able to kind of show them. And me, myself, I've wanted to, win and achieve things in hockey for a long time. So I think it's really important to show the guys that the guys who have success in junior are able to carry it on to college and hockey. And that's something that's really important.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the success beforehand. And this pandemic has slowed a lot of things down in terms of transportation, moving around, what you can and cannot do. You were very gung-ho on this because, the announcement came that the current head coach or the previous head coach was making his move up to join the Winnipeg Ice in the bubble in the Regina bubble there to help them with their 24-game season. So this left a void for the Freeze. How was your process and maybe actually becoming one of those front runners for this position in the hiring process and you becoming the head coach and GM of the Winnipeg Freeze taking place?
To be honest, it was about 10 minutes after I saw that post that Josh was moving on to the ice that I sent out an email to Jake, and that was it. Honestly, the rest was history. I had a couple interviews, but I was the type of guy, and this is one of the lessons I'll maybe share my coaching philosophy, but I would sit and I'd hesitate and I'd overthink it and I would doubt myself. But I've been doing this for long enough that I just told myself sometimes, the early bird gets the worm. So, I made it very clear, my background, kind of my intentions, what I think I could bring. And, the whole process took about 9 days, 3 interviews. And yeah, it happened really quick, but it's one of those things where when it happens that fast, you don't really let it, you don't really fully get to enjoy it and let it sink in. But no, that's basically what happened. At the time, I didn't have a team for next year. And so I got out in front of it. And, sometimes that's the best advice. Just put yourself out there. You never know what's going to happen.
So wake up early and act like a worm.
Exactly.
Has this been the first hiring process you've had that hasn't been really done face-to-face? You were in Alberta during this whole matter. Living outside of Calgary, just outside Calgary. And, Jack being in Winnipeg here, was this the first time you dealt everything within like Zoom calls and interviews over video conferencing?
No, actually the position at Winkler was very much the same. So, it's funny. It's kind of becoming the new norm, as people say. Yeah, it's not really any different interviewing over the computer. If I think it makes you a little bit more comfortable because you're at least sitting at home at the desk and I had everything I needed out in front of me. But it's I don't know. I'm just used to it. Being in front of a Zoom camera. It's one of those
I've
things
kind of become accustomed to it over the last little bit as well. As much as I miss play-by-plays, I do have to say that I miss. The comfort level of being at home doing these things is, definitely a 1B as opposed to being in a rink shivering in the middle of January. Our good old Blackjack Stewart Arena, which we've had many, many of those times as well. So I got to ask you one question before I take you to break here. What was the hardest question Jack or one of the members of the group had asked you during this process? Do you remember the hardest thing they asked you?
Yeah, you know what? It was just how would I sell the team, the program, and kind of the concept behind the new team. And it wasn't so much that it was a hard question. I just didn't know necessarily what process they were in terms of, what resources were available to the team right now. So in terms of how big my role was going to be, I didn't quite know what the details were when interviewing. But, after that, I kind of, saw what they needed from me. Then I had a little bit more clarity on kind of the answer and the question.
We're going to get to more of that hiring process and what Harry has to deal with this. I guess it'll be like a short 4 or 5 month bit, hopefully getting back to a regular season in September. We'll be back here on the ice. Back with new head coach and GM Harry Mahesh. Jake is the gentleman you had this wonderful conversations or group of conversations with. We talked a little about the hardest question. Were you prepared? How do you prepare for an interview like this when you've got a team that only has 5 games under its belt? It's a brand new team. Was a lot of the preparation for these interviews for you harder or more difficult, knowing that there wasn't much of a past with the Winnipeg Freeze?
To be honest, as you know, for any occupation, the longer you've been in it, the more past experiences you can rely on. And to me, this reminded me of going into Pallet Mound. The team had been there for 1 year. It was just kind of getting its footing. They had to introduce a whole new program and get a whole new roster. And I came in after that first year, and a lot of it was trying to retain the players that were there and trying to recruit new players. Have them buy into the program, but kind of my own personal philosophy. And the team didn't have a ton of success that first year, so it's very easy for teenagers to kind of doubt that things are going to change. And you have to kind of show them the direction. So similar to this, I looked at the record and I said, yeah, so what? Like, that's in the past. These guys are all going to be a year older. They got their feet wet in the league. They know what to expect. So for me, it's a lot of, Josh and Jake did a tremendous job putting this team together on very short notice and getting it up. And, they took Steinbach to a shootout. So, they've done a lot of the legwork. And for me, it's just to kind of come in now with more time and kind of look through it with a microscope, so to speak, and, see what areas we can improve on as a team, see, what we need in terms of a roster and filling certain positions. So that was kind of where, the interview started. My past experience in Pallet Mound really played a big part in kind of helping me with, the interview.
So let's talk a little bit about your past coaching experiences. Before Pallet Mound, you even spent time in Alberta coaching at the Banff Hockey Academy. You have a little bit of experience dealing with 16 and minor hockey AAA programs. Obviously, that is a big plus when you talk about looking for recruiting or looking into gaining players from in and around Manitoba and close, about to come to a brand new team. What is it about your positions in the past that kind of help you shape your present and into your upcoming future seasons with the Freeze?
So with a lot of teams I coached, it was always kind of the same mindset. The older the kid, or the age group, is that is how much that varies how much kind of intensity you show the kids. A little bit more leeway with the younger guys, but I always basically had the same foundation. And I found if it worked with a younger group and you got them to buy in, and a lot of them was just teaching them the game and kind of what the next level looks like. And then when you're at the junior level, which I'm really familiar with now, it's kind of putting together all those little pieces that I know have worked in the past, and now applying it to guys who, junior hockey is a thing where you got to be really committed and dedicated at this level. I mean, a lot of guys play for fun, but if you have that mentality that you want to play the next level, I think as a coach, now is when you can push a little harder. And I haven't really been able to fully show my full self as a coach yet. I don't want to say I've been bottling it up and not doing it, but I've shown what's been needed of the age group. You can't, you're not going to get the, a Daryl Sutter type coaching, Pee-wee's the same way he coaches the Flames, so, it's the same, he's still got the same mindset, the same idea, but, you got to keep some of it in. So now I can get to a little bit more of my hockey personality, so to speak. I was a guy who played, with heart on the sleeve, intensity. Now I know not everybody's like that, but I get to show more of that side, and use that to connect with the guys who I feel that I'll work with. So just going up to the age groups, I got to see, how much more of myself I could be. And now I feel like I can finally, show, a little bit more.
Did it feel in previous times that you were having like the reins held on you a little bit, and yet your role was somewhat of a limited capacity, whereas now you have to wear the head coaching hat and the GM hat, and you got to take care of 2 very prominent roles with a very brand new program, new hockey team. Like you said, you're going to be a little more emotional. I've always seen the Harry that's kind of not laid back, but more like reserves himself, doesn't let out the emotions too much? Are you one of those people that's going to be able to, not just share your story or share your passions about playing hockey, but guide a group of, young men to a philosophy you wish to endorse on them these upcoming years?
Well, the reins that I felt I put on myself. Like I said, I consciously didn't do things that I knew wouldn't work with that age group. It's sometimes you do a little bit, here and there to see if it works, and you find out very quickly if it can or can't. And at this level, I think, with his age group will be the first time I can really relate directly personally, not just, on the ice, but off the ice in terms of the path these guys want to take, the mistakes they make out in the real world. It's, you kind of get that full kind of package with the GM role as well, because, you're going to be making a lot of decisions for these guys, not just what they're doing on the ice, but off the ice as well. And, moving these guys on to the next level is a huge part of the role. And that's something I've been a part of the last couple of years. And I really, enjoy that side and giving these guys a goal to work towards. And I think at this age group, they're so close to that next level that, all they need to see is, the path and, the work it takes behind it. And that's kind of what I'm going to show them. And I'm not a guy who likes to play, I'll tell them exactly what they need to do. I don't like to play a lot of games. I'll either tell you exactly what I want you to do, or I want you to figure it out yourself. It's black or white when it comes to that approach.
So you're not really going to tell someone you're going to bench him and then answer the questions after the game. So no, it wasn't really a benching, like Mr. Tortorella, perhaps.
I'll never evaluate another coach because they're inside that room. I see a lot of people, post on Twitter their thoughts, but I said a true coach will never evaluate the other coach because he knows that room is, he knows it better than anybody else. So those decisions are all calculated. Whether I agree with them or not, I can't comment on them.
You're part of a brethren of now coaches. You've been a brethren there for almost a decade now, and you think about it, that's part of like a it's a group. You're part of one of the coaching groups now. You're in that echelon, so you can't really throw them under the bus anymore, really, can you?
No, I don't think I ever did, unless it was my own personal coach, and then then I didn't hold back. But I've told
We've
you this.
all had those.
I've told you this on a previous interview we did years back. Like, I don't mind a player challenging a coach. We challenge them all day, every day, and we're on these guys. So, if a guy wants to stand up and come at the coach with a little bit of this and then back it up, in a respectful way. I'm not saying, we get into a shouting match, but I like a little bit of pushback because you don't really know what you have in a player until you get them to their breaking point. And you're not trying to break these players, but you want to know, right? And not for your own sake, so that they know. So I like a little bit of bite in my players, and I think it's important. Not everybody, but I think some guys, they thrive on knowing that, the coach is going to let me be me. And sometimes, you gotta let them snap a little.
Yeah, it almost feels like you've given them the challenge as the coach to the player, and by them coming to you, it's them kind of telling you, challenge accepted.
Yeah,
we're looking to make this a group together to move forward, and we're not here playing for purple ribbons. We're here to, participation is not what we're here for. We're here to mold, build, strengthen, and progress. And I think that's what your role as a head coach, first, GM, second, is going to be. You've been in the position for a couple of weeks now, I guess. You've assessed a little bit what's been happening. What's in place for the team now with the organization and how that works within 49? Is it 49 below? Is that the company? Is that the organization? 50 below. Sorry,
yeah.
I knew it was 50 below or 49 below, something like that. But I know Jake and them have a bit of the program in place. What still has to be done in the off season to begin Game 6 of this short grouping with the Winnipeg Freeze?
Well, it's no different than a lot of these teams. Once with the restrictions and kind of mapping over the next couple months, like, we'd love to have a spring camp. I'm fortunate enough I get to get back on the ice with the guys that are around, and kind of just get to introduce myself. I think the best part is, one of the most important parts is building that kind of relationship with the existing players. They went through this. They got thrown to the fire. I feel like it's it's their position to lose. You know, I know a lot of coaches go into the being like, nobody's on this team and everybody's going to earn a spot. Well, if what I did last year doesn't matter, then, you know, that it doesn't make any sense to me. So these guys were there. They're on the team until they're not. And I think that goes, you know, with really any team. But yeah, just kind of getting to know the guys and working with them a little bit, and you know, kind of getting a feel of where, you know, there could be a weakness. You know, I'll talk with the staff, but it's no different with any team that's trying to kind of rebuild. Their 20-year-olds they're losing, and it's looking at the big picture. But more importantly is the way we're structured is, you know, once the team's set, the team's set. So character for me is going to be big. So I don't want to jump the gun on anything just yet. I think it's really important to take time. Like, you know, Lou Lamorello's big thing is if you got time, use it. And I'm a big believer in that. So it's not even April yet. I got some time. You know, we're going to get back on the ice, and we'll build this thing up slowly. You know, I think that's the best way.
So we've got a little bit of players. Do we have much of a coaching staff working with you yet, Harry, or is that still something that has to be progressed into as well?
Yeah. You know, I've talked to everybody that was there last year. I think it's only fair that they got 5 games, you know. So I would love to have everybody back in the capacity that they were at. And if they want to do more, less, you know, obviously this year was kind of chaotic, and so I'll assess it with them. But I think if you're a part of this organization, it didn't go the way anybody wanted it to. And so I want to give everybody that opportunity to come back and help build this program.
Growing up, Harry, I forgot to ask this question in the last segment. Being a player, we always emulate the players because they're the ones that are high flying, making the bucks and whatnot. But now that you've come into the coaching realm and you're part of that faculty, is there a certain style of coach or a certain coach you emulate now or want to be like, or take bits and pieces of 1, 2, or 3 different coaches that you've watched or been, you know, coaching with in your own professional career?
Okay, well, growing up, I was a Canucks fan growing up in BC. So I was a big Pat Quinn fan, and I didn't know anything about the guy. You know, he was just a coach of the team that I liked, and you would see his face, and he was the GM of the Canucks at the time. And then as I got older, and, you know, he passed away, and then he was, you know, they did the Hall of Fame, and you got to hear people tell stories. And I thought to myself, I want to be a coach like that. You know, he was very laid back, but I mean, everybody knows Pat Quinn. He was an intense player, but he kind of let the guys do their thing, and he would give them direction. And, you know, everybody knew he cared, which is why they played hard for him. You know, I think if the guys know, you know, what you're about and how much you care, you don't need to remind them every day. And I think that's kind of what he was like. There's a lot of great coaches in the NHL now, and I can't say there's just one guy. I like certain aspects of different coaches, but it was just funny that the guy who was the first NHL coach I knew by name was the guy who, looking back at it now, go, yeah, you know what? I kind of want to be like that guy. So.
Okay. So I'm going to list off a couple of coaches that we both know, and I want you to think of the first word that comes to mind. Okay. If you can do this with me, we'll list about 4 or 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's go with Dolphins' own Barry Trotz.
Tactician.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dallas Eakins.
Progressive, just because he took all the donuts out of the media room. He was the first one to really start to change things behind the scenes.
That's classic. Bruce Boudreau. You're gonna have a vocabulary like him, or you're gonna be a little more tame?
You know what? I was fortunate enough to actually my first year coach with his son. So he's another awesome guy, and I would just say what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, he players coach. I don't have one word, but personable. Yeah, you know, he's an easy guy to talk to.
Okay. Last one, Paul Maurice.
This is why I'm the opposite of him. He's really good at articulating his post game. Like, he's the best on the mic in terms of any coach, which is, as I'm losing the words, which is what I want to emulate, is kind of his pre and post game speeches. I think are the best. So he's very articulate.
He's very articulate, as opposed to John Tortorella, which is very opinionated.
I'm a John Tortorella fan. Like, I know through everything, but I mean, I feel like if you won a Stanley Cup, you can hang your hat on that for the rest of the time. So
yeah, no one's going to take that away from you. Speaking of which, I mean, you talk about that. Do we see a generational change in players playing for themselves as opposed to playing for team? Are we starting to see that a little bit, or is that just something we're just focusing on because we have more time to do it and the game is being scrutinized 10 times more than it was a decade ago?
No, you know what? I remember hearing the term puck hog all the time around the rinks when I was younger. You don't really hear that term anymore. Now, you're a guy who can skate with a puck, so I think the terminology in the game has changed, whereas it's not the worst thing in the world to be the guy to skate the puck end to end. The best player in the world does it. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't think players play for themselves. I think they're emulating a style of game now where the best players have the puck and they're winning. It seems like all the best players in the NHL have won the cup, 2 or 3 times and, won the Olympics. So I don't think players are playing for themselves. It's very much a chicken or the egg. If the individual player is having success, does that mean the team has success? And if the team has success, does that mean the individual is having success, or, what comes first? So I got no problem with a guy going into a game being like, hey, I want to score 3 goals. Because guess what? Those 3 goals count for me and the rest of his team. You can tell when things get selfish, and I think it's very obvious, and I don't think the best players are going to go very far playing that style. But in terms of, if you want to go into a game or season with goals, yeah, they're all personal. I would say other than, the team winning, every other goal you're going to set is going to be personal. So I don't think it's a generation with this generation. I just think it's more publicized, again, just because of the platform that each individual gets.
Gotcha. Okay, well, before I let you go here, I got to ask you this question. We finished this 1-year anniversary of this time we're going to call. And that is something that has been out of our control. We've had, health regulations and guidelines and protocols and colors and codes and you name it. I'm sick and tired of hearing about it and talking about it. The ones that are out of our control, we can't deal with. But this upcoming season, what is the biggest hurdle you yourself as head coach and GM think is going to face with the position with the Winnipeg Freeze?
The biggest hurdle I think will be just getting the right mix of guys early on. Like I said, once the season starts, the way that our program runs is we're not making any moves. So I really want to make sure that I get good people on this team. Look, we're still a so-called expansion team 5 games in, so everybody knows the hurdles that come in. I don't know how many times I can reference Vegas this year to, inspire the guys, but we're going to be young. There's going to be an experience. I think I don't want the guys to come in and feel like, hey, it's my first year. I got to, sit back and watch. These guys are going to jump into the fire just like myself in this role. So we can't sit back and be spectators. Every player who puts on the Freeze jersey has got to be ready to contribute from day one.
And we're expecting a very vibrant group, an energetic group, a hungry group for your 6th and ongoing games with the Winnipeg Freeze. Harry, really appreciate the time you've taken to spend with us. I think it's fantastic. Congratulations on the news, the position. A great person for the job. I mean, I don't even think it's a job because we've talked several times, Harry. It's in your blood. You love it. You have a passion for it like not many people do. You're certainly not a desk person, so the fact that you've sat with me for almost 35 minutes today and discussed things at a desk is quite impressive, I'll say that. But I think your desk is 200 feet long by 80 feet wide and has a couple dressing rooms, and it smells like old jerseys.
It's the best office there is.
Best office there is. New head coach and general manager of the Winnipeg Freeze of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, head coach GM Harry Mahesh. Thanks for joining me here on the ice, as always, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 o'clock Central. We'll leave it at that. Again, thanks very much for joining us. Have a great rest of the evening. We'll see you Thursday night, and take care. Bye-bye.
At Super 8 Winnipeg West, we have your comfort in mind with free Wi-Fi and free daily Superstart breakfast. We also have guest laundry facilities, a state-of-the-art fitness center, and a jetted hot tub. Sleep well in a spacious guest room equipped with plush new bedding, a 50-inch flat-screen HD TV, microwave, mini refrigerator, and Keurig coffee maker. Or book a suite with a kitchen, ideal for extended stays. Super 8, Winnipeg West, located just inside the perimeter on Portage Avenue.